of the class. Okay, is everyone there?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so yesterday, okay, so I'll reread the translation again and the Sanskrit. Yavan aham yata bhavo yadrupa guna karmaka tateva tattva vijnanam astute madanugrahat. The translation, all of me, namely my actual eternal form and my transcendental existence, color, qualities, and activities, let all be awakened within you by factual realization out of my causeless mercy. So yesterday, Prabhupada Mataji was talking in the Prabhupada's purport about this causeless mercy of the Lord, and how is that mercy given? Now, just like an analogy was used in the first paragraph, that in the mundane world, a father will disclose confidence unto the son whom he thinks is worthy. So an important man in the social order can be known by his mercy only. So in order to be very dear to the Lord, you have to be very dear to the Lord, in other words, in order to know the Lord. And also she talked about one of the ways the Lord doesn't reveal himself to everyone. He keeps himself concealed from the faithless. So one of the things that we have to remember is that to know the supreme truth of the Lord, you have to have faith, both in the spiritual master, the bona fide spiritual master, and the Lord. Okay, and they were talking. Prabhupada was also talking about form, that the Lord discloses his form, okay, to his pure devotees, and of course, the mundane wranglers, as Premanjali Mataji was saying yesterday, they believe that the Lord has no mundane form. Well, that is true. He doesn't have a mundane form. He has a spiritual form. So we have to remember that formless, it means devoid of mundane form. Okay, but not, the Lord actually possesses a spiritual body which the non-devotee can have no conception by the speculative method. It's only through the process of devotional service that one can know the spiritual body of the Lord. And not just anybody. The Lord picks and chooses whomever he wants. Obviously the pure devotees, and also through faith. You know, one does not have to be on the platform of prema bhakti in order to know the Lord's transcendental form, if he should choose to reveal it to a devotee. Okay, so we're talking about these things, and now back in that translation, I was reading in the Unveiling His Lotus Feet, just two small paragraphs here. It's, the translation, this is what, someone's calling here, hold on. It says here in Unveiling His Lotus Feet, be blessed, the Lord tells Brahma. By my causeless mercy, may you practically realize everything about me, my eternal form, qualities, and the transcendental nature of my existence and activities. Thus, in text 32, the Lord blesses Brahma so that all knowledge, jnana, and realization, vijnana, will awaken in him. The secret of realizing these is, as Srila Prabhupada states in his purport, to attain the Lord's causeless mercy. The Lord discloses his form even to the extent of measurement to his pure devotees. Srila Jiva Goswami comments as follows on text 32 in Bhagavat Sandarbha Anucheda 96. And so, for the manifestation of the two objectives to be achieved, namely practical realization and the confidential essence, the Lord gives a benediction. All of me, my actual eternal form and transcendental existence, color, qualities, and activities, let it all be awakened in you by factual realization and by my causeless mercy. Of course, that's exactly what it says in the translation. Thus the Lord says, may my essence and extent, characteristics, visible forms, such as my form with dark blue complexion and my form with 4 arms, qualities such as my concern for my devotees, pastimes, and factual, realized knowledge about me, may you gain all of these by my favor. Here the blessing for realization is obvious, and there is also a blessing in connection with the rahasya, the most secret confidential essence, because the supreme blissful direct perception of these matters necessarily gives rise to pure love. So that's kind of what it was saying about text 32. So he really favors Brahma. He gives him, this is where it sounds to me, where he gives him all the knowledge necessary to understand the Lord and to create, because he didn't know what to do in the beginning. We talked about that, and he needed this he needed to be guided, and the Lord guided him and gave him this transcendental knowledge in this part. So then I continue with the last 3 paragraphs. The Lord discloses to the devotee his unlimited varieties of transcendental bodies, all identical with one another, with different kinds of bodily features. Some of the transcendental bodies of the Lord are blackish, and some of them are whitish, some of them are reddish, and some of them are yellowish. Some of them are 4-handed and some of them 2-handed. Some of them are like the fish, and some are like the lion. All these different transcendental bodies of the Lord, without any differential category, are disclosed to the devotees of the Lord by the mercy of the Lord. And thus the impersonalist false arguments claiming the formlessness of the supreme truth do not appeal to a devotee of the Lord, even though such a devotee may not be very advanced in devotional service. The Lord has unlimited numbers of transcendental qualities, and one of them is his affection for his unalloyed devotee. In the history of the mundane world, we can appreciate his transcendental qualities. The Lord incarnates himself for the protection of his devotees and for the annihilation of the faithless. His activities are in relationship with his devotees. Srimad Bhagavatam is full of such activities of the Lord in relationship with his devotees, and the non-devotees have no knowledge of such pastimes. The Lord lifted the Govardhana hill when he was only 7 years old and protected his pure devotees at Vrindavan from the wrath of Indra, who was overflooding the place with rain. Now, this lifting of the Govardhana hill by a 7-year-old boy may be unbelievable for the faithless, but for the devotees, it is absolutely believable. The devotee believes in the almighty potency of the Lord, while the faithless say that the Lord is almighty, but do not believe it. Such men with a poor fund of knowledge do not know that the Lord is the Lord eternally, and that one cannot become the Lord by meditation for millions of years or by mental speculation for billions of years. The impersonal interpretation of the mundane wranglers is completely refuted in this verse, because it is clearly stated here that the Supreme Lord has his qualities, form, pastimes, and everything that a person has. All these descriptions of the transcendental nature of the personality of Godhead are factual realizations by the devotee of the Lord. And by the causeless mercy of the Lord, they are revealed to his pure devotee and to no one else. Okay. What I did was I was looking at the forms of the different forms of the Lord, because the Lord discloses to his devotee, okay, his unlimited varieties of transcendental bodies. And what I noticed in both paragraphs is the word unlimited. You can't even conceive of the amount of variety of transcendental bodies that the Lord comes in. However, they're all one and the same, okay? And it's pretty amazing to me that the impersonalists can claim formlessness of the supreme truth, okay? Even though these have been factually proven to devotees. Devotees have actually seen these forms, okay? And so, and it says that some have seen these forms, even though that particular devotee may not be very advanced in devotional service, okay? And we know, I'm going to read a little bit about some of these forms. It's that the Lord is one and the same always. All of these transcendental forms are one and the same. It's just that the bodily features look different. That's all. Okay, and of course we know about some of the different incarnations, the fish incarnation, etc., the lion, Hiranyakashipu, and that whole pastime. And let me see. And of course, once again, all of these different transcendental bodies are disclosed to the devotees only by the mercy of the Lord. So the impersonalist, he's not going to be able to see these forms anyway. We cannot even see these forms in our present consciousness. It really takes advancement, and of course we talked about it yesterday, just genuine love and faith in the Lord, and the Lord can reveal any one of his forms, millions, billions, unlimited amounts of forms. Let me just read a little bit, because I thought this was mind-blowing. And I'm sure we all have heard some of it, but it's nice to hear it again. This is from the Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Chapter 6, His forms are one and the same. By devotional service, one can understand that Krishna, first of all, manifests himself as Svayam Rupa, his personal form, then as Tad Ekatma Rupa, and then as Avesha Rupa. It is in these three features that he manifests himself in his transcendental form. The feature of Svayam Rupa is the form by which Krishna can be understood by one who may not understand his other features. In other words, the form by which Krishna is directly understood is called Svayam Rupa, or his personal form. The Tad Ekatma Rupa is that form which most resembles the Svayam Rupa. But there are some differences in the bodily features. The Tad Ekatma Rupa is divided into two manifestations: the personal expansion, Samsha, and the pastime expansion, Vilasa. As far as the Avesha Rupa is concerned, when Krishna empowers some suitable living entity to represent him, that living entity is called Avesha Rupa, or Shakyavesha Avatar. This is pretty intense. The personal form of Krishna can be divided into two, Svayam Rupa and Svayam Prakasha. As far as his Svayam Rupa, or pastime form, is concerned, It is in that form that he remains always in Vrindavan with the inhabitants of Vrindavan. This personal form, Svayam Rupa, can be further divided into the Prabhava and Vaibhava forms. For example, Krishna expanded himself into multiple forms during the Rasa dance in order to dance with each and every gopi who took part in that dance. Similarly, he expanded himself into 16,108 forms in Dwarka when he married 16,108 wives. There are some instances of great mystics expanding their bodily forms by the yoga process, but Krishna did not expand himself in this way. In Vedic history, Sobari Rishi expanded himself into 8 forms by the yoga process, but those expansions were simply reflections, for Sobari remained one. But when Krishna manifested himself in different forms, each and every one of them was a separate individual. When Narada Muni visited Krishna at his different palaces in Dwarka, he was astonished at this. And yet Narada is never astonished to see the expansions of a yogi's body, since he knows the trick himself. Srimad Bhagavatam describes Narada Muni's astonishment at seeing Krishna's expansions in Dwarka. Narada wondered how the Lord was present with his queens in each and every one of his 16,108 palaces. With each queen, Krishna himself was in a different form, acting in different ways. In one form, he was talking with his wife. In another form, he was petting his children. And in another form, he was performing some household duty. These different activities are conducted by the Lord when he is in his emotional forms, which are known as Vaibhava Prakasha expansions. Similarly, there are other unlimited expansions of Krishna's forms, but even when they are divided or expanded without limit, they are still one and the same. There is no difference between one form and another. That is the absolute nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Blows me away just hearing this. In Srimad Bhagavatam, this is in the 10th canto, chapter 39, verses 44 through 57. It is stated that when Akrura was accompanying Krishna and Balaram from Gokul to Mathura, he entered the waters of the Yamuna River and could see all the planets of the spiritual sky. He also saw the Lord in his Vishnu form, as well as Narada and the 4 Kumaras, who were worshiping him. As stated in the Bhagavad Purana, the Supreme Lord's many worshippers, the Vaishnavas or Aryans, are purified by the various processes of worship they perform, according to their convictions and spiritual understanding. Each process of worship involves understanding different forms of the Lord, as mentioned in the scriptures, but the ultimate idea is to worship the Supreme Lord himself. And this one other part I thought was very nice. In his Vaibhava Prakasha feature, the Lord manifests himself as Balaram. The Balaram feature is as good as Krishna himself. The only difference being that Krishna's bodily hue is blackish and Balaram's is whitish. And that's why I picked this, because it goes into the different colors, that within which Krishna manifests himself, and of course, as well as forms. The Vaibhava Prakasha form was also displayed when Krishna appeared before his mother Devaki in the 4-handed form of Narayan, just when he entered the world. Then, at the request of his parents, he transformed himself into a 2-handed form. Thus, he sometimes manifests 4 hands and sometimes 2. The 2-handed form is Vaibhava Prakasha, and the 4-handed form is Prabhava Prakasha. In his personal form, Krishna is just like a cowherd boy, and he thinks of himself in that way. But when he is in the Vasudeva form, he thinks of himself as the son of a Kshatriya and feels like a Kshatriya, a princely administrator. It goes on and on. it says that there are innumerable four-armed manifestations in different planets and different places. For instance, they are manifested in Dwarka and Mathura eternally. From the four original four-handed forms are manifested the 24 principal four-armed forms, which are called Vaibhava Vilas. They are named differently according to the placement of the conch, club, lotus, and disc in their hands. The same four principal manifestations of Krishna are found on each planet in the spiritual sky, known as the Narayan Loka or Vaikuntha Loka. In Vaikuntha Loka, Krishna is manifested in the four-handed form of Narayan. From each Narayan are manifested the forms of Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. Thus, Narayan is the center, and the four forms of Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha surround the Narayan form. Each of these four forms again expands into three, and these all have different names, beginning with Keshava. These forms are 12 in all, and again, they are known by different names according to the placement of the symbols in their hands. And I mean, it just goes on and on with the, so this is just to give us, again, we know a lot of these, but myself, I don't know all of them. All of these four-armed forms which manifest into 12, etc. And the expansions, let's see, the Vasudeva, as far as the Vasudeva form is concerned, the three expansions manifested from him are Keshava, Narayan, and Madhava. The three forms expanded from Sankarshan are known as Govinda, Vishnu, and Sri Madhusudana. And it's very extensive. So is that so that we memorize them all? Well, some of us probably hear about this so much that you can memorize them, but it just goes to show the unlimited varieties of transcendental bodies that the Lord has, but they are all one and the same. And what I find very interesting is they're all one and the same, and when these incarnations, when these forms manifest, each form is doing something different simultaneously as the other forms. So therefore, no one else in the material world can do such a thing. Even if you're an advanced yogi, like it says, some of the advanced yogis, they can go into maybe 8 forms by the yoga process, but they can't be separate individuals. Okay, they might have 8 different forms, but each one is not performing a different activity simultaneously. And that best example, of course, was when Krishna was visiting his 16,108 queens in the different palaces. He was doing something different with each one of them, all at the same time. So that is very unique to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one else can do such a thing. And no yogi, no mundane wrangler can say that he can become God. Okay, and we'll go into that. Into the purport, the Lord says, the Lord has unlimited numbers of transcendental qualities, and one of them is his affection for his unalloyed devotee. Again, we're talking about unlimited, okay? So we can appreciate these qualities. And the Lord, when he incarnates into the mundane world, he does it to protect his devotees and to annihilate the faithless. He comes to reestablish religious principles. And, it's just beautiful the way it's so personal, how he actually comes to protect his devotees. So he's very personal with his devotees. He has a very personal relationship with them, and he loves them, and he shows this love. And I just wanted to, I'm not going to read all of them, obviously we know a lot of these, but in the Nectar of Devotion, I was just looking at some of the qualities that are obvious. But I wanted to find the one where he's close to his devotees and read that one. Just give me one moment. I'm turning a lot of pages here. And for some reason, at this moment, why am I not seeing it? Oh, darn. Okay, hold on. Okay. Because there's a section where it talks about one of his qualities being that he is takes care of his devotees. And I'm looking for it. Self-controlled, steadfast. I don't know why I'm not seeing it at this moment. Well, I'm just going to go back into Nectar of Devotion for just a few minutes and very quickly talk about some of the qualities again. We know some of these, but Srila Rupa Goswami, after consulting various scriptures, has enumerated the transcendental qualities of the Lord as follows. Beautiful features, marked with all auspicious characteristics, extremely pleasing, effulgent, strong, ever youthful, wonderful linguist, truthful, talks pleasingly, fluent, highly learned, highly intelligent, a genius, artistic, extremely clever, expert, grateful, firmly determined, an expert judge of time and circumstances, sees and speaks on the authority of Vedas or scriptures, pure, self-controlled, steadfast, forbearing. Some of these I'm not even sure what some of them mean. Forgiving, grave, self-satisfied, possessing equilibrium, magnanimous, religious, heroic, compassionate, respectful, gentle, liberal, shy, the protector of surrendered souls. There it is. He protects us. Happy, the well-wisher of devotees. Once again, the well-wisher of devotees. Controlled by love, all auspicious, most powerful, all famous, popular, partial to devotees. Again, very attractive to all women. I just love that. He's just too beautiful. All worshipable, all opulent, all honorable, the supreme controller. And it says the Supreme Personality of Godhead has all these 50 transcendental qualities in fullness, as deep as the ocean. In other words, the extent of his qualities is inconceivable. And it says, as parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, the individual living entities can also possess all of these qualities in minute quantities, provided they become pure devotees of the Lord. In other words, all of the above transcendental qualities can be present in the devotees in minute quantity, whereas the qualities in fullness are always present in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so, sorry, I'm just a little bit mad that I couldn't find that one section, and I saw it and I said, oh, well, I'm going to read this section during the class, and for whatever reason, I'm not seeing this. It's probably sitting right in front of my face, and I don't know if you've ever tried to do that and you just can't, you can't see it for whatever reason. But anyhow, we can never possess these qualities in full. We can possess minute qualities of what the Supreme Personality of Godhead has. And these are pure devotees. They can only show it in minute quantities, never as much as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so we can't ever say that we can become God, which is what many of these Mayavadi wranglers would say. oh, Lord doesn't, he doesn't have a form. It's, we emerge into the Lord, we become the Lord. We don't. We can never be as big as him. We have a lot. We have his qualities, but not his quantity. That's for sure. I'm still looking as I'm talking to you. Unfortunately, I'm mad at myself that I lost the section that I wanted to read. I'm sorry about that. Still, because it was talking about, just how Krishna reciprocates with his devotees and how he treats the devotees. Mad. Anyway, oh well. I can't find it, so that'll be the end of that. And so we also have to remember, okay, why he came. And he came also to protect his devotees, to annihilate the faithless. So he did come, he killed many demons, but he also came to reinstitute religious principles. And also, so how can we, and to enact his pastimes. So if you want to talk about the qualities of the Lord in terms of his personality, that's how we find out what his personality is like, is by reading about his pastimes and his Leelas. That's how we find out what he was like, what kind of a personality he had. And there was one example of how the Lord reciprocated with his devotees in this Govardhana Lila pastime. So lifting Govardhan Hill when he was 7 years old, and he protected his pure devotees at Vrindavan from the flood. And so, of course, the Mayavadis or the materialists or the mundane wranglers, they would think this was just some silly story or whatever. But for devotees, it's completely believable, and it's absolutely believable, because as devotees, we believe in the potency, the almighty potency of the Lord. And others, who are not devotees, they say the Lord is almighty, but they actually, in reality, they don't believe it. So, once again, you can have someone who's meditating on the Lord for 1,000,000 years, or for mental speculation for 1,000,000,000 years, they'll never become the Lord. And they might think they can do it, but they can't do it. All right. And so we know that the Supreme Lord has qualities, form, pastimes, and everything that a person has. So, as we've said in many times, that the material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Similarly, with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we have some of his qualities in minute quantities. We don't have all of them. But you know what? If we have a form, and we have qualities, and we have a personality and pastimes, the Lord must have them. He must. He has to be everything, at least what his creation is. And of course, we know that he's much more than his creation. And these are actually realized by pure devotees. Okay, this transcendental nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are factual realizations by the devotee of the Lord, and by the causeless mercy of the Lord, they are revealed to his pure devotee and to no one else. So that's what I have for today. Would anybody like to correct me, or, add to it what I said, etc., ask any question, etc.?
I just, I accept, what the Vonda Field, scriptures, have to give us. I do not question. I don't question. I accept it with full faith, with full slaughter, and that's it.
Well, most devotees, we are very, can you say, we're theists, we believe in,
right.
and absolutely.
Right.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, was someone else going to speak?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for a wonderful class as always. I really enjoyed all Krishna's names and qualities and everything. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
It's just so wonderful. I remember when the temple was in Evanston, and I was invited to the temple, and I sat in a circle with a couple of devotees, and they just cried their heart out in devotional love towards Krishna.
Wow.
Oh, it was so wonderful.
Were they actually crying?
They were actually crying. Yes. I mean, just tears just came running down their face, and it was the most blissful, So since that made a believer out of me right there and then.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I feel it still to this day. I still, my heart is so, wrapped, so. I don't even know the right word. There's no words for the love, that exists.
I've heard, the New Vrindavan devotees, when they were first with Prabhupada, I know that they would cry in love of Krishna and Prabhupada.
Right.
But I never heard of others doing that since then. So that's very, very nice to hear that.
Yeah.
That was the way it was in the Evanston Temple. Wow.
Yeah. I remember they had the black and white floor tiles, and we all just sat around, and I've even dreamt of them. That's how much of an impression that they left, in my head. They actually, I was pregnant at the time, and they asked me to have my baby with the midwife, and I guess I was just like really young and stupid yet, and I didn't agree to have one of the midwives at the temple, deliver the baby. So many things just went through my head, like, what if there's complications and, what have you. And I decided to go to the hospital and have the baby. But, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really nice to know that, and that one can actually show that in front of others. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add or contribute?
I'm not busy for the clarification.
Hare Krishna?
Yeah, I said thank you for the class. It was really nice.
Well, thank you, Mataji. It was kind of short, because probably Mataji had said a lot yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mataji, for all the research that you did, and it would be so very nice if you could send, especially the citation for the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. I'd like to read that. That was very nice. I heard something in class. Yeah, that would be nice if you could do that. I heard something in class that kind of, you're talking about the forms, and this class was on the nectar of instruction, and it was the Prabhu was talking about having the adhikari, or the qualification to see the Lord. You're talking about all the different forms of the Lord, and he was saying that that one can think of the whole manifested, universe, everything, as like a computer program, and that
Heard that, yeah.
that have you heard this, where the computer program, where a person can, like, different people, they have access to this, Krishna's creation, but only certain people have access to certain files. And he was saying how one's adhikari, one's devotion, one's bhakti, will give one access to certain files. Like, just think of the computer program as having many, many files, and, all different types of things, and I might have access to X, Y, and A files, and someone else might have access to, A through Z, and it all depends on one's bhakti, and how, it's like getting the code to all these different files, and it's only through one's bhakti that you can have access to the form of the Lord, like, or to actually enter into his pastimes. How, it's what you put into it that will give you access to seeing his form. We heard about Lord Brahma, and it was only through all his tapasya. He put a lot into it, and he was given the code, or, with regards to this metaphor, to seeing the Lord. And I just thought that was kind of interesting as you were talking about all the different forms. Yeah.
And he was given access to all of it. I mean, it's
the abode, the abode, everything. And Guy, and it's just amazing how he has, like you were saying, he has so many forms, and anyway, so thank you for doing all that sharing and researching. It was very, very nice.
Yeah, I understood, when in reference to what you just said there, I heard something that refers to the invisible digital form of Krishna. It has to do with his multiple forms, in his body that he breathes out. Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I like that.
Oh, Linda Mataji, I'm telling you, thank you so much for talking about that image. I'm just trying to picture that image of these devotees sitting around chanting and crying in love with Krishna back in the Evanston Temple. I mean, that got me. Wow.
Yeah.
Powerful.
I know. It is powerful. It was. Still. Oh, God.
Okay. Anybody else, or should we end here? I'm not sure.
Oh, God.
Govardhana Lila, thank you so much for the very, very excellent class. It was like Manchana Mataji said, like all the research and yeah, it was excellent.
Oh.
Mataji, please share the reference with us. Also, maybe you can post it on, or you can email it to us. Because I was also thinking to go back and read it because it was so detailed, like the whole information and precise.
In the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, yeah, I will send that reference. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And Mataji, somehow, like, Mataji called me in between and I missed that part of the Evanston temple. Can you share it again?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. You missed the part yesterday that Prabhupada Mataji was talking about? Is that what I heard?
Yes, Mataji, I said I missed about the sharing for the Evanston temple. Can you please share it again?
Oh.
Linda Mataji, share that.
Oh gosh.
Tell her again what happened.
A long time ago, like 40, it's been 39 years ago, I was the temple used to be located in Evanston. They used to have a very large Evanston temple. And I used to go, and I was pregnant at the time, and the girls, as they worshiped, they would cry, giant tears of devotion and love for Krishna. Literally cry. It was a very powerful moment, very powerful memory that stays with from time immemorial. It was a wonderful experience. It's just like I felt so unqualified to be there with them, but through the Lord's mercy, he let me see the wonderful affection, the real affection that devotees could have for Krishna, So it was,
wow.
It was real. There's no doubt about it.
Because I have not seen anybody do that, not in front of me yet. I mean, maybe some people have, some devotees have. I'm sure they have, but I haven't seen them do it, publicly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Govardhana Lila, I just wanted to share. I was on Facebook yesterday, and they have Modan Gopal had a posting of Gurudev, and he was somewhere. Radhanath was giving kirtan, and devotees were dancing around Gurudev, and all of a sudden Gurudev started crying and crying and crying. And then, you could see him in the posting, and I don't know if I can get access to that again to send to you. And then he dries his eyes, and then he puts actually his part of his clothes, or I don't know what that part is called, one of his kurtis or whatever it's called, over his head because he didn't want to share, or I don't know, embarrassment or what it was, but he covered himself because he was in ecstasy actually, and actually I was hearing a class by Gurudev also yesterday, and he was talking about the stage of bhava and how when people go into ecstasy like that, and I saw that in the action. It's so interesting how Krishna, he brings different things together for understanding. And he was saying how in the lecture, and I think you've heard this one on Shikshastakam 678 or something, where in the lecture he said that during symptoms of ecstasy like that, Prabhupada used to actually try to control it because of, those are very private things, and and how, you know, so I just wanted to tie that with you. I mean, I'm sure, and it was very beautiful. And I saw it again, and it was just so, I had to watch it again. It was just so beautiful to see it. But I think for those who are going through the ecstasy, and maybe Prema Rasa can respond to this, people who are going through that, it's not something that, between what I heard about Prabhupada and actually seeing Guru Dev, it's not something that like you share. It's not like one wants to be public, because I think he said something to the fact that people might start judging you. Oh, you're in Bhava. No, you're not in Bhava, and this and that. And it actually might do some damage for those people who are watching. And so, Prema Rasa, maybe you have some comment on this. When someone does go into ecstasy like that, do you have any comments?
No, Madhuji. Actually, I have heard the same thing, that it is very private. They don't share anything about what they're going through or what they're feeling. It's usually never disclosed. Because also that not everybody has an understanding of the feeling. Like ecstatic feelings are very, very in a very high platform. Even we cannot understand what to speak of all the other ordinary people around. It's not just devotees, but there are also other people who usually come to the temple and then who watch and so it could be misleading. Like they may start to interpret things which could be offensive, like not good for their own bhakti. Like people can start to interpret and say that, oh, this is like that, this is like that, and eventually it's more like offending a pure devotee for not understanding instead of
judging.
I mean, it's not something that we can even perceive or even theoretically perceive, not just like understand, but even theoretically we cannot understand those ecstatic symptoms of bhava and prema. Actually, I saw one devotee.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Mataji.
So actually we have this something called like Festival of Holy Name. You came, right? You both know, but I don't know if the rest of the devotees on the phone, they know that every July 4th weekend, Rompad Maharaj does what is called Festival of Holy Name weekend. And after the 32 rounds, the last day we chant 32 rounds. And then he generally asks devotees to share like how their feeling it was when they were chanting. And one devotee actually from St. Louis, he also similarly shared that like inconsistently the tears is flowing from his eyes and he didn't know exactly what it was. So he shared this experience, but he said that I feel ashamed to share it in front of so many people. He said that I feel embarrassed actually. And Maharaj, he didn't comment, he didn't say anything when it came to that, because it's very confidential. We don't want people to interpret anything when it comes to our relationship with Krishna. It's very pure actually, that part is very pure.
Go ahead, Mataji.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Janava Mataji, she had my Guru Maharaj at her home many times to stay. And I guess one time she was telling that they were playing a kirtan downstairs, on the first floor, the main floor. And Guru Maharaj was not taking part in that kirtan, he was not downstairs with the Prabhus who were playing the instruments. And she said she walked by, I think her mom walked by or something, but they walked by and the door was partially open and you could see the shadow of Guru Maharaj. He was completely wild in the room. He was in ecstatic kirtan. He was jumping all over the room and everything. And she said she had never seen anything like it, by himself. And he was chanting and dancing by himself in his room. was pretty powerful. So I'm learning that, you know, the guru.
I do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you serious? Really, I put it on my computer. I put it on my computer. Kadama Swami.
Mm-hmm.
He puts out a wonderful kirtan. You know, and I think he's situated like in the Ukraine or somewhere in Europe. And he has all the Leelas dancing through the streets, chanting Hare Krishna. It's wonderful to watch.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love kirtan very much. I know some other devotees too. I know Manasi Ganga. I know you love kirtan also.
I do. So back to the lecture that Gurudev was giving on 678 Shikshastikam. He was sharing how Prabhupada and a devotee were talking, and this one devotee was saying in class, "Oh," he goes, "Yeah, no, it wasn't okay. It was about this devotee, and Prabhupada was appearing in his dream." And so in one of the classes, he raised his hand and he was like talking about it. And then Prabhupada continued to visit him in his dreams for a number of times. And he kept on sharing it with everybody in the general public, this, you know, in the regular Srimad Bhagavatam class, to everybody. And I think it was Maharaj Gurudev. Gurudev turned around. Yeah, it was a woman. Gurudev turned around and says, you know, you shouldn't be talking about this to everybody, because you know, what happens is when one shares about private things like this, or private things about one's ecstasy or whatever, it tends to go away. I mean, that, you know, it doesn't, you know, it can stop happening. And how so you heard this part, is that it?
Well,
the same story, Mataji?
I've been transcribing that particular verse for him, 6, 7, and 8.
Yeah.
I'm doing it now.
Yeah. Anyway, so all this about, you know, when one experiences that, you know, it might not be to one's best interest to share it with everybody, because the effect sometimes is that you'll lose that special connection. Yeah.
He said, in fact, he had seen that woman again. And
yeah,
he said he never got the dream again.
The visits from Prabhupada again.
Yeah.
Right.
It was over.
Yeah.
And so she told Guru Maharaj, you know, she told him, you were absolutely right about that.
Yeah. Just heeding a warning to Mataji, to Linda Mataji. Yeah.
We all, you know, we all learn the hard way. I do, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But,
okay.
So anyway.
Hare Krishna.
That's it.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. We'll continue. What's tomorrow? Oh, no, Monday. We'll continue Monday. Thank you for putting up with me, everyone. Srila Prabhupada ki.
You're very welcome. Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, what are you burning here, Bob? Burning my pan?
How is Irene? Where's Irina?
You burning my pan, Mom?
Yes.
Why you gotta do that shit? Irene is, stop it.
She doesn't have her glasses. Does she have her glasses?
I don't know, Mom.